He's part of the Vikings radio broadcast. They're Analyst on radio. Joining us on the Emerald Queen Casino Sportsbook hotline, Pete Bercich is with us. Pete, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing good. You know, it's funny. My co-host and I were sitting here talking about this move, and we've had a ton of conversation about Sam Darnold this year, which is odd since we're out here in Seattle talking about the Seahawks. But he's just, if you're an NFL fan, he's a fascinating story because of the previous 6 seasons. He was looked at as a draft bust. He moved from multiple teams or played for multiple teams, and then he lands in Minnesota and has the season of his life until the final 2 games, which were the most consequential. And we're going, all right, well, how does his market shape up? What do you believe? Is he the guy that's fixed, or is he the guy of the previous 6 seasons and the last 2 games? So what's your read on him?
My read is you watch what he was able to do, with the Vikings this year, and it wasn't just because he was throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison. He had some good receivers. Don't get me wrong. But when I look at quarterbacks, I try to break them down a little bit in just what kind of throws that they can make. In that, Sam Darnold is a very strong-armed, very accurate quarterback. There were many a time that he hit Jordan Addison on a 10-yard out, a speed out, or a deep comeback from one hash mark all the way across the field and got the football exactly where it needed to be. We saw him get a little touch on the football as the season went on. So from a tool standpoint, he has everything that you could possibly want, which is why he was a first-round draft pick. But we were able to see him, I think, during the season, put a lot of that together. I mean, for him to put up, 102.5 rating throughout the entire year, over 4,000 yards. I mean, that's what you're going to get out of Sam Darnold, right? And listen, and let me tell your listeners, at least the ones, you guys got to see him kind of on a high at home. One of the better comebacks of the season. You saw what kind of a competitor he can be, what kind of throws that he can make. The go-ahead touchdown to Justin Jefferson was one of the best throws that he had made all year. But I think you also, in that same play, saw a symptom of what got to him at the end of the season. Darnold was sacked 48 times last year, 48. And I think that took its toll. And after we played you guys, we played Green Bay, and then played Detroit. And Detroit got a lot of hits on him, got in his face. And so if you could protect him and keep him clean and allow him to follow through on his throws, I think you're going to get a lot more of the 4,000-yard plus Sam Darnold than you are of the Darnold that you saw against Detroit and, against the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, Pete, I was talking about how, it used to be that these offensive coordinators, it's like, we run this offense here and you're going to fit into it no matter what. It seems like it's kind of a little bit more of a give and take. So what did you think was the message from O'Connell, or who was kind of the secret sauce for the really good season that he did have as far as, just calling the right plays and the right offense? How important was that?
It was important, and I give Kevin O'Connell all the credit in the world. I mean, it's the toughest position in sports to play, playing quarterback of all professional sports to play. And then, on top of it, he's a guy who has played that position, coached that position, was an offensive coordinator. Now he's a head coach, so he knows how to identify and build on a quarterback. And I think the success of Darnold really, really proved that. And a lot of it is fundamentals. I get to do a show with Coach O'Connell. He talks a lot more about footwork and fundamentals than I'd heard. I haven't really sat down and chatted with a lot of QB coaches throughout the league, but as a head coach, he's constantly talking about footwork, constantly talking about those little things. And then his ability, I think, to manage the quarterback from the sideline through the headset. I think we've had with the quarterback carousel we had, 2 years ago. I think when O'Connell was actually given the play and had 20 other things, because we had just a new quarterback almost every other couple of weeks. That he's able to do those things. So I think Darnold benefited from all that. I think he benefited from his years in New York where things were not as good. But he's going to go with Kubiak, and I think one thing for Darnold is he's a very good play action style of quarterback, and I think Kubiak's going to take advantage of that fully.
We had a lot of fun with a play call from your wild card game against the Rams. This is hilarious. This is radio gold right here.
Aaron Jones, Addison in motion to the right. 2 receivers left. Rams blitz. Darnold gets away from it. Steps up in the pocket. He's holding it too long.
Just run.
Throw it, man.
Just run, Paul.
At the 25-yard line, he's sacked for a 5th time.
Just the frustration that you can hear in the voices there is just so good. But what was that? Was that building through just that game, or was that frustration over the season? Was that a common mistake for him, hanging on to the ball too long? What would take me through that?
I think, a lot of it's a combination of a lot of things. I mean, you got to understand, just a week before that game, we had an opportunity. We were playing on a Monday night for all of it, right? For the division, for the bye, and everything else, and things obviously didn't work out. And then you go turn around and you get a playoff game. You're going against the Rams team that has to relocate to go to Arizona. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes with them. But it was just a matter of not even meeting that intensity level as a team that needed to be. So the frustration, there was a lot of frustration in the Detroit game. A lot of that was directed at Sam because of some of the overthrows. I mean, it was a lot more evident, I think, in the Detroit game that was Sam that had, Darnold had a bad day. He had a bad game. Why? Well, we talked about that being sacked, 48 times. It's eventually going to wear you down. In the playoff game, it was just, soup to nuts, man, across the board. We were just disappointed with, it's a playoff game, right? I was lucky enough as a Viking player to play in 7 of them, and it's a whole nother level, right? I played in 2 NFC championship games, and week after week, those levels keep and continue to ramp up. And I think that was what you were hearing on the call. Is just, us not even being in the mix really. So from that aspect, it was a disappointing attempt. You and as a player and, former coach, you put in all that work to get to 14-3. You put in all that work, to play be the highest ranked wild card team and, play the lowest seeded division winner. So you're in the best situation you could possibly put yourself in, and then to not take advantage of it. Right. That's probably the most frustrating part of the entire thing.
Well, and Pete, as being a broadcaster during the games, you want to create moments, and you guys absolutely did. And I'm sure all the fans just loved that. But it was just radio gold, like Bob said. But hey, tell us about Sam Darnold as far as a person. What kind of a guy? What kind of a leader? What kind of a teammate is he?
From everything I know. Not that I've spent a lot of time in the locker room. Not that I've had the opportunity to really get to know him too well over the years. Interviewed him a number of times, but he's a great guy, and I think as a leader, he's going to be a little bit more of a quiet leader. He's not a super rah type of a guy. However, I think he has a lot more confidence in the way he goes about things, and that's going to reverberate with everybody around him. So don't expect somebody to be coming in and just making speeches and NFL highlight reels and all that kind of stuff with everything that he says. I just don't think he's that kind of guy. I think at his core, he's not too like Warren Moon. This is one of my favorite Warren Moon stories when I was a rookie. He actually talked to me one time, and he's like, we were talking about the NFL, and he said the key to the NFL is you don't get too high, you don't get too low, you just kind of stay somewhere in between, right? And that's exactly, I think, what Darnold's about. It was, sage advice from one of the best quarterbacks I played with or seen play, in Warren Moon, and I think Darnold reminds me a lot in that regard. He may not be as confident as Warren yet, but he's getting there.
So what was the reaction to Sam Darnold out there, in that, the idea that he could move on? Obviously, he's been out there. He's a free agent. Was there, I don't know, a groundswell? Did the fan base want him to stay, or were they comfortable with the idea of him leaving and J.J. McCarthy? They have faith in J.J. McCarthy being the guy.
Yeah, I think that the fan base is comfortable with Darnold leaving for that reason and that reason alone. You take a look at because the franchise, the tag and trade thing was such a big thing that everybody wanted to talk about. But I don't know. You look right now at what you would have had to have paid him or risk paying him had nobody wanted to trade. And you look at the salaries of the quarterbacks that are in just below what you get, that $40 million threshold. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, and I've seen him play his entire career. He's not anywhere near what he used to be. Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Gardner Minshew. I mean, you're getting a better quarterback than all of those guys. And so, the tag and trade just would not have worked. We only have 5 draft picks this year, right? We have a first rounder and I believe a third rounder. And so the fans and people wanted to get some compensation for it. But it just would not have worked out. I think they played it the right way. You'll get a compensatory pick, I think, in 2026, but there was no way to get any more equity right now. I just think it would have been too big of a risk, and we'd have been facing the probability of being stuck paying Darnold, $40-some million or $50-some million, and then, what are you going to do with with JJ? So, I think it worked out well for both sides.